Well, today, folks, I'm going to talk about your friends. I learned something critical during my nursing years, and what that was each night before I used to start my shift, I used to go round to all of the patients and just have a little chat with them as I did the drug round. It was just, how are you doing today? And what you did, you got a baseline, or I managed to maintain a baseline on their energy. And what this does, even the tiny little talks, just a few minutes, it gives you a baseline level. And every now and again, I would go on and I'd have these conversations with somebody that I'd spoken to a couple of nights prior, and you would just feel something was off. You'd get a sense of it. Intuition, the energy's not right, the way that they're communicating, something wasn't right about it. And what that did was made me very suspicious in my role as a nurse. And what life has taught me is that this is an invaluable skill, especially with your friends. You know when things are a little bit off. And let's put this in reverse. My dad was a psychiatric nurse, and 3 of his closest friends ended up committing suicide. And none of him or his friend network saw any of that coming. Now, I'm not saying he should have done, I'm not saying he would have done, but what I am saying is that when you look back, and it's happened to me, I've lost a couple of friends through suicide. When I look back, it's easy, with hindsight is 20/20. When you find somebody, you find out the day that they're dead, and you look back, you start to put the pieces together in your mind of what happened, where things were going wrong, where things were just a little bit off. And the difference between life and death is sometimes your ability to recognize that space is so important for you. Because if you start asking questions and really push, something's wrong, come on, tell me, what is it? I can feel it. I can feel that something's not right. Now, especially blokes, because let's face it, 75% of suicides are blokes because of that belief that we need to work through it on our own. And I'm terrible at that. I always work through things on my own. But that comes with a caveat, folks. I always do that because I know that I'm going to get through it. And sometimes I want to do that process alone. And occasionally a friend will phone me when I'm going through that period, and I'll see that as a message from the universe. And then I'll open up, sometimes. But the point being that it's very subtle things, and never, ever, ever beat yourself up if somebody commits suicide, because people get good at disguising the symptoms. And it's really important for you to realise this. So there you go, folks, a slightly deeper one today, based on some very interesting conversations that I've had this week with friends who are looking at people who have killed themselves and beating themselves up about it. That is the most pointless process. And one thing about committing suicide, when people are in that zone, they don't care about anything. Quite honestly, people that have kids will kill themselves sometimes because they reach such a dark space, they stop thinking about what everyone else thinks. And it's all about them and their relationship with themselves and life. So there you go, folks. Conversations with death. That's what this is about. It's about realizing that if someone is going to kill themselves, they're going to do it regardless what you do. But there are ways, subtle ways, to recognize the symptoms. And it's just people being a little bit off, a little bit evasive, a little bit different. You can feel their energy. So be sensitive to that, folks, and recognize that it happens to all of us occasionally. And the more attuned you are to this dynamic, the better you'll be as a friend. And you may even save someone's life without even ever knowing it. And there's something interesting. So whatever you do, wherever you are, whatever cards life has dealt you, just know that we don't always play them the best way, but as long as we're alive, we have the opportunity to play a better hand moving forward. And by certainly you tuning in to these subtle things in people's behaviour with your friends and really digging and asking the questions, you could make a massive difference.